Hello, everyone, and good morning, and welcome to another edition of American Scouser TV's Morning Cup of Coffee or Tea, brought to you by Reckless Coffee on what could only be described as a reckless weekend on a Friday if they're sending me in to host these two lumps. Gentlemen, how are we this morning? Anand, let's start with the guy who showed up early for once. How are you, my friend?
Feels good, just doing my thing, showing up early, and then the guy forgot to send the link for us to hop on,
That's what happens when you're actually, I don't actually need the link. So every once in a while, me and Timuchin will be doing this on a Monday, and we're like, where the fuck is Bickler? Where the fuck is Bickler? And then we realize neither of us sent him the link, and neither of us would give him the keys to this out of fear that he might try to host a program of his own.
Let's not do that.
There's Z rolls in. Good morning, gents. Richard came in. It's called football, FSG out. Nothing like a reckless Friday without Richard. Only guy I know that has the ability to come in screaming about FSG and no ambition when they have actually spent some money wisely the last couple summers, brought in a manager or coach that looks like it's fitting, and when the things are going well. I'm all for the Discord, but to be honest, now doesn't feel like the time for it, but we'll get there. Let's bring Kazi in. Kazi, how are you, my friend?
Rich, it's fucking 7 a.m, fella. Fuck's sake. Fucking ease me in here, last. Want to have a little chat about the Nets for top of the league. I fucking hate FSG more than knowing the next guy. But fuck me, lad. Ease me in. You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. But before we get to this weekend's matchups, I did want to touch on, because, neither of you, as I recall, neither of you were on the post-match. So we'll go in. Let's talk a little bit about the Champions League. I always like to say this was a graphic we used. It was made for us by our own Lydia Page, L Page Sports. She's very talented. She helps us with some of our graphics. So we appreciate that. We also appreciate how hot that tea probably is, as Anand may have just lost a portion of his tongue. As always, we say good morning to Alan Walnut and all the folks down in Houston. So let's get right at it. Let's talk a little bit about this match. I brought up some of the FOTMob ratings here from the match. You can take them as a grain of salt. I wanted to start with that midfield three. Soboslai's taking a lot of stick, rightfully so, Kazi, as we've said. Thought his performance was very good. I don't know that he was playing against the toughest of midfields. Their attack was what seemed to actually cause us the most problems, right? It felt like the young attackers they had. Let's start with Soboslai. What did you see from him that you liked outside of the work rate? Because let's be honest, we all know he can run, but that makes you a donkey, not a footballer. So what was it about Soboslai that you thought both the manager and the supporters seemed to pick out as such positives on Wednesday night?
I don't think it was like a tremendous performance, but it was much improved based on his previous performances, which is good. You can only go, to be honest, I'd rather, in a weird way, a player going from 3 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 back to 4 out of 10. When if he's going to go from 3 out of 10 to like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, and he consistently puts those 6 and 7s in for us, no problem. So it was much improved. He just done the basics better, I thought. I thought his work rate was already there. I don't think anyone questions his work rate, really. And his powerful running. It was just more the basics, not giving the ball away when he's finding the right pass a bit better and stuff like that. So much improved, mate, And again, the performance for me was a bit more just professional from Liverpool. It felt professional. We got the early goal and we always felt in control, even though Bologna did have a few chances. I always felt like we were never going to lose the game or not win the game at least. And then I always felt we would get a chance, and then Mo gets a chance, you know what I mean? And puts the top in, which is just a lovely finish. And, the Darwin one's interesting because the manager does highlight Darwin, and I kind of agree with the manager a little bit on that one, really, that you need to find them as well. The way you can get strikers into a game, you got to find them.
Exactly. We are gonna touch a little bit on it too, Kazi. Yeah. But let's go there with Anand. Yeah. It's a good spot for it. Anand, I was gonna stay with Mo on the positive and then go to Darwin because I think he put in one of the few lackluster performances, in my opinion. but I thought the manager did a good job. And we might touch on it a little bit more big picture about the striker. The manager clearly made points afterwards and on the week and in this morning's presser to talk about that the club, the managers, the coaching staff need to do a better job of helping Darwin, and he needs to do a better job of helping himself. Let's serve up one of Timuchin's famous Friday morning blame pies. Darwin's slow start, you put it a little bit to the tactics. The player's still getting used to this new system and where that striker should be, or is it down to Darwin not being in the right place at the right time often enough? Because we credit him for being in the right place and then missing chances. This year, it feels like he's been better at not being offsides, but he hasn't been in those same positions he was in before. Like, is he possibly thinking too much to try to figure this out?
Yeah. Let's start with Szoboszlai real quick. He had a better performance because of the way he was playing. So this is why we highlighted it as good. And I said in the Discord, I'm like, wow, he's been, great today. And somebody's like, he's been bad. What are you talking about? But it's because when you go from having a stinker after stinker after stinker to having a 5 out of 10, this is a huge improvement. He didn't have a great game, didn't have a perfect game, but he had a game where he didn't give the ball away easily in midfield because he's making square passes, just turns and makes the square pass. He actually went for the smart decision now versus the nice-looking decision when it came to the passing. He had guys running to his right or left. He knew to make the pass to the right rather than, at Rivella, let me go, play it to the left and make it look good. So he played simple ball, and I think really that's what Slot wants. Because look at Gravenberg. He's not doing anything special. He's playing simple ball. McAllister's playing simple ball. If this team just gets to playing simple, they're going to get things done. And this is why Szoboszlai needs to just kind of play easy. You don't need to prove a point. You're already here. Last year, I get it. You had a bad season. You had to prove a point that you're actually good. You're here. You've got your position cemented, and the manager is going to play you regardless of how shit you play based on what we've seen. Don't need to prove a point. Just play the game. Now, when it comes to Nunez, two things. He hasn't really gotten a run of games, and I know we hate saying that, but he hasn't really gotten a run of games to get him going, and I don't think that system fits him. This isn't on the managers or on the training team. It's just the system doesn't fit Nunez, because if you see, we're not playing direct to the striker. How many times, watching it this season where the ball is directly going to the striker from the midfield straight up? No, we're playing it on the wings, then we're playing it in the box. We're building from the back, playing in the center, then moving to the right or left, then playing it in the box. That doesn't suit Darwin. Darwin needs a guy to feed him directly. If you remember the good old Van Nistelrooy, he wanted somebody to feed him the ball directly so he can turn and score or touch and shoot. With Darwin, that's not what we're doing. And he's not really getting an opportunity to get the ball outside and run with it because our midfielders are now holding to the ball a little longer. So overall, it's just not working out because of the system. Can he work out? Yes. Is he going to work out? I hope so. But I don't know.
And can I go off that though, right? What is the best system for you?
Because exactly. We don't even know that.
Well, Klopp last year got 18 goals out of more comps, which is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. 18, he did play a lot of footy, but 18 is still pretty good. What's his best system? Because I keep getting told that, it's the system and stuff like that, but you need to help yourself sometimes, There's thousands of players around the country playing different systems and wrong systems that don't suit them, but they still put in some kind of performance. By the way, I do agree with the manager a little bit, where you got to give them the ball as well, force him to miss. That's why last year was so frustrating, because he was missing a lot. He was getting in the positions and we were feeding him the ball, but he was missing sitters. Then I can go to Darwin. In this case, the manager brings it up again today, he has to still work harder as well. I look at a player like, I'm not saying he should be this type of player, but like Michael Antonio, who gets like 12 goals a year, but works his fucking nuts off for you and bullies defenders. He doesn't even do that to get in the game. Sometimes he doesn't fucking go and bully a defender, does he? I've never ever watched a game where when you've come off the game and you go, Darwin Nunez bullied that defender today. He's 6'4". He's built like a monster. Bully him. Make him work. Why are we not getting that? Why are we not getting that?
No, and I think that's a good point, Kazi. And let's go to we'll jump around a little here, because I'll come back to the Champions League in a minute, because I do want to look at the table with you guys after 2 matches in this crazy configured system we have now. But ultimately, we'll go to what the manager said, because he didn't just mention Nunez, he mentioned Jota, and he even said, when he put it on himself, he said, we need to do a better job, because if you look at Jota's numbers, yes, he has the 3 goals so far this year, but 2 of those goals he scored from the number 10 position against West Ham. So ultimately, right now, I think you make a good point on that. The system might not be completely working for either of the two strikers. When it's Jota or Nunez, the goals are coming from Diaz and Mo, and a lot from our midfield, and they're being created out of those areas as well. So I think Slot knows he needs to figure out the center of the pitch a little better. But I also think that isn't that what happens when you have arguably the best informed right and left wing in the Premier League right now playing? Like you are creating with really class play from both Diaz. And at times, Jota and Nunez are playing a part in that buildup. I just think we are past the days of the unicorn of Bobby, where we don't want a center forward to get touches in the box and actually create and shoot themselves and not just be in the buildup. And I think we've evolved from that as a club. And I think the manager wants to as well. So Nick says, I'd sell Nunez. I said all along this was a make or break year. I needed to see an improvement on the stats Kazi mentioned last year, because the stats last year didn't equate to great play. And I would even take slightly worse stats if the play was better and he looked like he fit better, because you could build around him. I do question whether or not you can. So we'll table Nunez being sold after 7 matches when we're top of the table. Real quick, Kazi, there's been lots of talk, because we know we're going to have plenty of time this year to talk about that.
By the way, though, right, because I think it is worth mentioning, though, for 30 seconds, I don't think Nunez gets sold in the summer. I think they still keep him. I'll tell you why, because there's too much work to do in other positions.
Yep.
There's lots of work to do. There's a left back to do. There's another centre half to do. There's definitely new contracts for Canate, Robertson that you've got to do. There's the Trent, we already know the other lads' contracts. There's probably a new midfielder because they look for like a number 6. And you know what I mean? And then there's an argument where if Luis Diaz doesn't get a pay rise, he probably goes. So then you know what I mean? You're actually in the argument. There's like 5, 6 other things before you look at Darwin. So yeah, it's a tough one.
So real quick before we look at the table and then move on to the press conference and start looking at this weekend's Premier League. There's been a lot made about the atmosphere at Anfield. I'm sick of hearing it. We've all bitched about it, but found it interesting. First home Champions League match in 2 years, right? Yep. First home Champions League match since the semifinal before the final against Real Madrid. First last Champions League match since the loss afterwards.
Real Madrid.
But also the first Champions League match since UEFA tried to sweep their whole issues in Paris under the rug and blame the supporters with their lies. And so we went a little Man City, something we haven't done in the past. They booed the anthem. They didn't allow the Champions League anthem to be played. They turned their backs to the anthem when they brought the ball out. And Slot even mentioned he didn't feel like it was the same Liverpool night-like atmosphere that he would expect. Is this because it's the first of 150 group matches and they just kind of not up for it? Was it because it's Bologna, or is it Liverpool supporters maybe being slightly disenfranchised with the competition they've been associated with being in love with since day one? Anand, you're nodding your head, so I know you have an opinion. What say you on this one?
Option C. Liverpool supporters are over UEFA, not the Champions League itself, but UEFA. So all I'm seeing on social media, again, I'm not there, so I can't really give you my take personally. But based on social media, they're all pretty much against UEFA because of the new format of the Champions League, the money digging of UEFA, the way they're doing it, their treatment of Liverpool Football Club over the final, a few years ago. And most importantly, the fact that they're going to be playing 1,376 games this season and it feels useless. Based on what I'm reading, and again, who knows what, 1 or 2 people, if they represent a whole fan base, but based on what I'm reading is the fans are over it. The locals hate it, and they're just not happy with the way UEFA's doing things.
So Sir Z says, I read a good article about the ticket prices being too expensive for the younger generation, which is where most of the noise is coming from. And there was we all saw the stories about what Villa did, and what Villa tried to do in their first year in the Champions League in 30-something years is criminal. You try to, price gouge everyone out. And even Villa was doing it like the Italian teams do it to the English teams. They were charging an even higher premium on away supporters coming in, which is crazy because you want the Bayerns to create the atmosphere, the Bayern supporters to create that atmosphere that you've been longing for. So, Kazi, as someone who is a local, grew up outside of Liverpool, grew up in that area, do you agree with Anand? Do you think it is the locals kind of being disenfranchised with UEFA? Is it the new format of the league? Is it just that it's the first match and they know that maybe it has less importance than it did before when you played 6 and there were 3, the home and away legs? What's changing? What feels like a growing attitude of dissent across Europe, not just England, towards UEFA and, more importantly, this competition?
I think there's a bit of everything that you've said, really. I do think there's a bit of everything that's all combined into one big thing here. Ticket price is definitely a thing. You are playing Bologna at home. Let's get it right. It's not a big game. Bologna don't finish in the top 14 in the Premier League. And then, yes, the Anfield atmosphere. This Anfield atmosphere thing, by the way, that should be kicking off. And again, the Bologna game is interesting. I don't know where it's come from. Anfield's always been like that. They go, this famous Anfield atmosphere you get when we're playing someone boss. So if we have this conversation after the end of the Real Madrid game in a couple of weeks, we'll have a chat. But it won't be like that because they know it's going to be fierce when Real Madrid show up because you're playing a fucking boss side. Do you know what I mean? So when City and Arsenal come this year and we're in a title race with them, you know what I mean? Do you think it's going to be like that? Absolutely not. But there is a thing, of course, and the club I have a lot to answer for, and I do know a lot about the tickets and stuff like that, because if you don't give your ticket back to the club and stuff like that, you can lose credits. And you build up credits over time, so you get access to more tickets. For fans who don't know, if you go to games more consistently and you go every game, you build credits up over time. You have to get a certain amount of credits to get tickets. So, for example, if you want to be guaranteed a Real Madrid a home game, you have to go to every European game of the last 2-3 years, as an example, to be guaranteed a ticket. And that's where you build the credit up. But what the club and the fans have been noticing as well, sometimes when a fan goes, I can't go to the game, he can't give his ticket to someone else because he might lose a credit. So he gives it back to the club, and then the club is selling hospitality packages on the back of a ticket that's been sent back to them, which is fucking criminal. So the club also have a lot to answer for. They built this new Annie Road and said it's going to be amazing, it's going to be fantastic, and then 6,000-7,000 tickets are hospitality tickets. And let's be fair, hospitality tickets are not really targeted at the main Liverpool fans, because Liverpool fans can't afford hospitality tickets, like most other people can't anyway in the world, can't afford hospitality tickets. So there's a thing that Liverpool had to figure out to do with ticketing. That is a thing separate, I think. But going back to the atmosphere, I do think you're playing Bologna at home. It's your first game of your Champions League. There's going to be let's get it right. If Bologna by the way, I think if Bologna go 1-0 up, you'll fucking see a change. Do you know what I mean? But I just think Liverpool were very comfortable in the game. You score in the first 10. There was no qualm in the game at all. There was no for Liverpool to get up. The Arsenal game a couple of years ago was always new for the fans, the American fans especially, and people who were kind of new to Liverpool and stuff. The Arsenal game when they were 2-0 up in Anfield, and you can go to Anfield and beat Liverpool, no problem. Forest did that last week. The one thing you don't do is piss the fans off. You don't fucking rile us. You don't think you can come and kick us out of the game, because that ain't going to happen. And what happens is Granit Xhaka has a run in with Trent and Konate, and then Liverpool turn it on and go right in. You can come in and beat us, but you're not going to come in and take the piss out of us. And that's another thing as well. But going back to the point here, mate, of the Bologna game and stuff like that, if we have this conversation at the end of Real Madrid, I'd be a bit more concerned after the Real Madrid game. But I think you're going to see a massive turn. Anfield's always been like that. Anfield turns itself on when it has to be turned on. Do you know what I mean? Like they will get up for the game when it's needed to get up for the game. And unfortunately, Bologna at home on a fucking Wednesday night is not something that, in the first group game of 8, second group game, first at home of 8 group games, is not something, you know what I mean? If Liverpool need 3 points on the last group game at Anfield to go in the top 8, you'll fucking see some change then. Do you know what I mean? But I think Liverpool will finish top 8 now by looking at the group stage and stuff like that. So, I just think we need to all calm it down. We're in the middle of October here, and let's have the business end in April and May and have a chat then about atmosphere.
So it's good little segue here. You made 2 comments there, right? One, that you felt Liverpool will finish top 8. I do as well. I felt they had a shot of it. I just felt really good if they could secure 6 points in the first 2. And that was important to me, especially the 3 on the road at AC Milan. To me, what this came about, but you also mentioned Arsenal, and I know that they sit down, but Arsenal might have had maybe the most impressive, probably on paper, result of this match round, winning against PSG. It's not a great PSG side, and they were missing their best player in Ousmane Dembele, but they should get used to that because this is the 8th club that he's been at, that he's fallen out with the manager. He's going to play for every club in the world And every club's going to say the same thing when they buy him. Man, we're getting a kid with so much talent. And then 2 months in are going to be like, can we do it? What can we do to get this talent out of this club? So let's talk about, obviously, Liverpool. Their position is strong here. 5 goals scored, 1 conceded, it being an own goal early on in that AC Milan match. More about Villa here. Obviously, 2 great results. I mean, that's what the Champions League's about. Nights like that against Bayern Munich at home. I know Unai Emery said you literally couldn't hear. His head was hurting when John Duran scored the goal. It was just so loud at Villa Park. So, Anand, what on the left-hand side of this, table, the upper half, the top 18, what jumps out at you? What surprises you the most there? What is sustainable? What is just absolutely a mirage?
Good evening. Listen, Brest stands out, What a team. What a team. Only very conceded 1, just like
they were very perky last week, I thought. You know what I mean?
They were perky. Yeah, they stood up and fought.
It's a team that stands out. Honestly, I would, scores, A+. Obviously, performance double D, but I think they've done well. They stand out. Leverkusen, another team that stands out. But I think having only watched, other than our game, Aston Villa play in the Champions League, they play well. I like the way they set up. I like the way they defend. And freaking Duran, he's been coming on as a sub the last 3 games, and he's been getting at least 1 goal every time he comes on. So it's impressive. It's very impressive. And then I saw a tweet. Somebody said, well, this is why they dealt with all his bullshit, because the kid can play. Now, I don't know what bullshit he's done at the club, but it seems bad. Dortmund looks good.
He doesn't train. He literally is the type of kid who barely trains. He's kind of like a Balotelli. He gets pissed off in training and just like ruins training sessions. But they tried to sell him to 3 different clubs. They tried to sell him to West Ham. They tried to sell him to Palace. Chelsea tried to get in on him. And all he does is keep scoring goals. And now he's putting himself to the point where, he's challenging at some levels, even some Villa supporters saying he deserves a look at some point with Watkins or alongside him, but then that takes Morgan Rogers out. I will say I saw a quote from him. I thought it was brilliant. He said when he was back in Colombia, he would watch a lot of Liverpool matches the last couple of years because Luis Diaz was there. And then he started to fall in love with Divock Origi. And now like the Villa fans chant Divock Origi when they sub him on because he just comes on and scores late winners. I just thought that was hilarious that he brought it back to Divock. Kazi, quickly, what jumps out at you here, even on the bottom half of the table? Any of these sides that are really struggling that you think can rebound from this, or are most of these teams that came out with 0 points from the first 2 matches going to really struggle finding their way even into that top 24 if results keep holding the way they are?
Well, the one thing that you need for Liverpool fans especially need to make out is the bottom half of that table on the right there. We play RB Leipzig, haven't picked up a point. We play Girona, haven't picked up a point. Play PSV, we've picked up 1. So you get into the stage really where when do Girona and RB Leipzig throw the towel in? Do you get what I mean? I know we're playing Leipzig next, I get it, but you're playing Girona the 5th or the 5th day, I think, the 5th game. When do you throw the flag in? Do you know what I'm saying? So I just feel like Liverpool, the fixtures have kind of fell in our way a little bit. Like the draws fell in our way where Liverpool could be. I think this is what the manager wants, is to be tied off with 2 games to go. After 6 games, I think he wants it over. That we're in the top 8, and it doesn't matter who you if you finished 1st or 8th, just be in the top 8. And I'm a big fan of that, by the way. And I think that's something that we need to, Liverpool need to kind of look at. But again, in what you're saying, can I see anyone bouncing back? Not really. Real Madrid will finish in the top 8. We already know that.
Yes.
But there's a part where Real Madrid go to Liverpool, lose, and then you're like, well, they've lost. They drew with Lille last week. Was it Lille?
Yep.
Drew with Lille last week. I think Liverpool play Lille as well. That's one of those teams that Liverpool play, I think, is Lille. So they might actually look and go, well, when Madrid are playing AC Milan at home, which they expect to win probably, and they've got Dortmund, AC Milan, and then Liverpool, I think, which feels tough. But you can't. I don't know about you, Gally. I want to ask you this question. I can't fathom Real Madrid not finishing in the top 8, but they are playing Dortmund, and then they are playing Milan. I know Milan are up to no big stretch right now, but Milan could find a little bit of form by then because they have got a good squad. And then you go to Anfield, and then before you know it, you play 5 games and you go, "Fuck, we got to win our last 3." Do you know what I mean? It's like,
and they have a resurgence.
Can you see a big team not finishing in the top 8? What big team do you not see finishing there?
I think it could be, and I think you come up to a good point with Real Madrid. They have tougher fixtures. They may need to get 3 points at Anfield. They've proven they can do that, but I don't know that if playing at this level the way we are right now and playing the way Slot plays and not, I think what always helped Real Madrid playing against the Jurgen Klopp teams is you knew he was just going to keep coming at you. And if he keeps coming at you, eventually it didn't matter what happened if they turned the ball over. They had the Toni Krooses and the Modric's to make that right killer pass. And they, and I think what I've seen, and I have not watched a ton of Real Madrid this year, but as good as Bellingham looked last year, he doesn't look the same player. That midfield doesn't look the same cut. And I think that they underestimated how much they missed the old German. Because everybody talks about the old troll, the Croatian under the bridge, right? And how he never ages because he was already 850 years old when he made his first ever professional appearance. I think Toni Kroos, they underestimated. Ancelotti never did because he begged him to stay. But I think they underestimated him the same way Germany underestimates when he's not in their setup. He does a lot of the Gundogan stuff, Kazi, that you always give credit for City. The work nobody notices that the guy does that makes everybody else better. And I think Madrid are missing that. So potentially Madrid might be one of those teams. And I'll tell you this, if UEFA finds a way where Madrid is in that double leg knockout round, they will literally do victory laps and they will just tell everyone, this is why we created this league.
They'll finish
this.
They'll go in the qualifying round, but I do think they'll finish in the top 8. That's the question. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they're going to find form early enough. With Dortmund the top, they look good as well. You know what I mean? And then you go to Anfield. No team wants to go to Anfield in Europe. No team can be asked with that. Do you know what I mean? I just don't know if they've got I don't know. They might have to win the last 3 to get there, is what I'm saying. They might have to win the last 3, which is a big ask.
I didn't want to bring this comment up while Anand was away, but Serzi jumped in with Anand making a tit of himself again. Once again, Serzi with the greatest of dad jokes, even when they are slightly on the rated R side of things. So, all right, let's get into this week's presser. Happened today. There wasn't a ton there. Let's be honest. He's so honest and so upfront. I almost feel like the journals are at the point now where they're like, if he's just going to say we never lie and we never there's never going to be a battle with this guy. It's like he gives the journalists nothing. I like how he quoted a journalist and then Mo Stewart came up later and was like, that was me. That was my idea. Yeah. Please give me credit. So Anand, let's start with you. He talked today. They asked him about the contracts. We're not going to spend much time on it because it is boring as hell. I thought it was a great response. If you ask me in 2 weeks, maybe I'll have something different for you. Ask me after the international break, but you ask me every 2 days, I'm going to keep telling you the same thing, and it's not going to be entertaining. Anand, I know why they ask it. Do you think he's handling the questions right? Do you think he should be asked these questions? And at what point might we see a little bit of frustration from the regurgitated questions that used to drive Klopp crazy, rightfully so?
I think he's handling them like a Dutchman, and that's really what it is. He's not putting on a persona or nothing. He's just being himself. And yes, they got to keep asking. He's going to keep giving the same answer. If it was Jurgen, he would give him a little more attitude and pushback. But I like it. Pretty straightforward. Just get simple to the answer. Keep it short. Keep it simple. He makes it seem like he's just going to work, got to finish, clock in, clock out, and go home. And that's what I like in my manager. Just be fucking practical. Get it over with. Even James Pearce is like, why is nobody picking on me?
It's like he hates it, doesn't he? He looks like he just hates his job. And I love those type of people in life, by the way, who just work at the same company for 30 years and have hated this since day one. He just looks like one of those guys. Like, I'm here just to win footy games. And
in press conference, it just feels like, I really got to do it as shit. Okay, fuck it. He sits down. He's like, go ahead, ask. And then they ask the question. He's like, fuck it. Is this over? Okay, I got to go now.
One thing, which you've just brought up, is the most sure one, which you brought up. And the question was that he got asked, for the people who haven't watched it, is that after the international break, of course, you know what I mean? Like Liverpool, again, lost the first game, which was Forest. And I like how he remembered, like he's learning as well. Like, oh yeah, 10 of my players played the full night, like the full minutes, and the next team was 5. Someone told me that. And he said, and it's like he kind of remembered, oh, I might need to rotate. But he did say he has an extra day for Chelsea and stuff like that because it's on the Sunday. And I quite like that's the one thing I picked out the press conference was like, oh, you're going to learn then, because you're going to learn about English football pretty damn fucking quick. If you don't rotate, and we all want a bit of rotation, I think we all agree with that. But he is right at the moment because Liverpool top of the league and have won 2 games in the Champions League out of 2. So he is kind of right. But we also know that after this international break, it's fucking game day. Liverpool has some tough fixtures coming up, and he will have to rotate. So I'm quite happy that he clicked that in his head, like, oh yeah, maybe I made a mistake against Forest. Do you know what I mean? Like he's learned from the Forest defeat, and we won't see that again. That'll be super cool.
It's not from this press conference, and it has nothing to do with this, but it was before the Champions League game when they told him, you're winning games and you're doing this, and his response was, well, we haven't played any top teams yet. Haven't known we played United. That's my manager. Like, that's the kind of bullshit I like. He takes a very professional dig without no intention of making it clear, but you know damn well what he did there. So nothing but respect to that bald man.
Yeah, he did have a couple other zingers in there. I agree with you, Kazi. I liked how he made the comment about kind of the 10 and the 5, and he's like, I wasn't aware of it, but you guys made me aware of it. I'm sure it's truthful because you journos don't lie. He takes a little shot with a smile on his face, right? And he's like, and then later, and so at one point he said something like, again, the journos here in England, or the journos know everything here, especially here in England. Like it was outstanding, but it was like with that wry smile. The rotation issues and the extra day of rest. I thought that was a big comment as well. I thought it was a smart comment.
Yeah.
What do we take of? People want to create a riff, right? The media needs to find something with this guy to not like for the supporters. So like they are like, he doesn't say anything negative about the players, or he does, or he's too Dutch in his press conferences and honest post-match. And we're all like, this is refreshing. And even people want to find like he doesn't give enough credit to Klopp, or he takes shots at Klopp. So today the rumbling on Twitter was that his lunchtime kickoff thing, I'd have to be a stupid manager. I'd have to be a dumb manager to say that you can't perform at a high level at lunchtime. We train every day at noon. Like now the journos out there and the people, the haters are trying to write that was kind of like his way of saying, I'm not Jurgen Klopp. Don't ask me about lunchtime kickoffs. I did not take it like that at all. I took it as the guy being flippant and also refreshingly honest that we train every day at noon. So I'm taking the excuse away from the players that all of you in the media have been trying to give them for years by constantly banging on this topic about lunchtime kickoffs.
Go on. Yeah.
And ultimately what I loved was he turned it on them and he said, it isn't about lunchtime kickoffs. It's about 13 of those 14 lunchtime kickoffs have been on the road, and Premier League matches are just tough to play on the road. And let's focus on that and not what time of day it is. I thought it was brilliantly smart in a way to turn it without acknowledging that it hasn't been an issue. Kazi, sorry, I know.
Because this is one that kind of stuck with me as well a little bit. For our fans who I've kind of forgot a year ago about Jurgen Klopp and what he was. His biggest fucking issue was 12 kickoffs after European games. That was his issue. This is his first European 12 kickoff. This is his first one, or after the international break. That was Jurgen's biggest issues that he had. He does mention, Anslot, that in the Dutch league, they do get looked after if you play in Europe on the midweek. He did mention that, and you ain't going to look after us here, no problem. It was nothing to do with the time of the kickoff, which used to stifle Jurgen. It was the time of the kickoff after a European game. Because Arne mentions it again, for people who want to just take snippets and take little things and come up with their own narrative, that Palace have had the whole week off, and Liverpool haven't. And do you know what I mean? And that is an issue. So going back to the R12 kickoff thing, yes, he mentions you can't perform an R12. Of course you can. But Arne Slot is going to learn. He is going to learn what this means. That after every European game, or after most internationals and European games, it's going to, if they get an R12, you will get fucking some lackluster performances like Liverpool did. I think we did against Palace last year. I think that could have been after the international. I can't remember. Harvey Elliott scored late, and Liverpool were absolutely dog shit, if I remember correctly. So it's something that he will learn, which I think he's learned after the Forest game, that you might have to fucking rotate if people are being, in the south side of fucking Bolivia playing games and you're starting them again on the weekend. I think that is going to be a thing. So he has to learn he's going to make mistakes. The one thing I keep thinking about with this Liverpool team, guys, and it's something that's really sticking to me, Liverpool just might fall into a title race because of the other teams. I think Liverpool can get 85 points. 85 points could be enough to win it this year because there's no Rodri at City. So the one thing that I always say with Arsenal, and we all agree that you probably need 90 points to catch City, that's 90 points with Rodri. That's not, you know what I mean? So that's not, I think City get 90 points every year with Rodri. The one thing that Arsenal haven't done this, have not shown me, is that they can get 90 points because they have never got 90 points. So, but this year it could be 85. So going back to the bigger argument here, the one thing that used to cost us, Gally, and I preach about this in the Discord chat, losses don't kill you, draws do.
Draws.
It's draws. Draws kill teams. People keep saying, oh, you're undefeated. Liverpool are top of the league and lost a game. The other two below us haven't lost a game, and Liverpool are above them by a point. Barcelona, I think, have lost a game. I think Barcelona are top of the league by 3 points and have lost 1 or 2 games. Real Madrid are undefeated and the 3 points behind. Draws kill you, not losses. So as long as Liverpool, this Palace game is super interesting, I think, going back to this weekend. If Liverpool can just get over the line somehow, beat Palace, you're actually looking and go, you're 4 points clear and no one can catch you by 3 o'clock. I know they've got easy games. We'll go to the games on the weekend in a second, I'm sure, with Fulham and stuff.
Yep.
They've got easy games. But what you're starting to look at right now is making in a bigger scenario if Liverpool could just fall into this. But also, if Liverpool do lose games and draw games, the manager's learning on the job. He's learning. I remember Jurgen Klopp making massive mistakes in his first full season in charge. Do you know what I mean? First of all, he wore a suit at the Carling Cup final. Jurgen Klopp in a suit. That was the first mistake. But, I mean, it's like kind of, he's going to make mistakes. He's made mistakes against Forest. He might learn that his comment today about the R12 kickoff might come back to bite him on the arse. Because you might think, fuck me, actually, this is a thing of when my team's away in Europe to, let's say, Girona, and then we get picked for the R12 kickoff, and you're like, fuck me, I've got home, it's Thursday morning at 4 a.m, and we kick off in 40 hours. Do you know what I mean? That might start to learn. What we've got to do is give the manager time and let him make his mistakes.
So he says we're winning the league with 93 points this season, 18 goals conceded.
That's very
specific. I think it's 17 conceded.
Yeah, I mean,
unbelievable. 18. What does he think? We can give up a goal a match. What the bleep? Anand, what were you going to add to that? What Kazi just said? Do you agree with Kazi with his point? And he has been saying it for a couple of years now that the draws are what really kill you when you're at the top of the table compared to the actual losses. Like in some ways, you're better off to lose 2 across the season than draw 5.
Well, what was it, Rafa? Was it in 2008 when we lost the season because of how many draws we had?
Lost 2 games.
Lost 2 games, but we had, 6 or 7 draws that cost us the league?
When City under Klopp, we got 97 points. We lost
City, yep. And then even under Brendan Rodgers, we had the best offense in the league. We've scored so many goals, but we drew so many games that we lost the league.
7 maybe,
yeah. So it's draws that really, screw you. But I want to go to the 12:30 kickoffs. And I like what Arnda did here, right? Because he's that kind of guy that believes the speed of the leader, speed of the team kind of thing. It rises from the top. If he's at the top and he keeps saying, oh, yeah, we're losing these 12-30 kickoffs, it's just bad. What are the players going to do? What's their attitude going to be? This is just basic leadership, right? Not a dig at Jurgen because his complaint wasn't 12:30 kickoffs. Kazi made it clear. His complaint was playing 12:30 kickoffs after international breaks and after European matches. But this manager comes in his first big press conference, and he starts saying, yeah, the 12:30, because he made a comment in the beginning of the season when we had a 12:30 kickoff and we won the game and I haven't won many. He's like, well, there's a 12:30 kickoff we won. He's trying to erase that from their heads, trying to get that out of the way. Because if we continue to talk about it, these players can go out there and give you a stinker every single game and say, well, it's a 12:30 kickoff, man. We've struggled with those. We got to take that narrative out. You got to remove that narrative, just like the narrative that every time we play Real Madrid, we're going to lose. We got to take that narrative out too. It's these narratives that once you take out, your players will have clearer heads. It's just simple leadership. And I love what he did because he wiped that away. So now the 12:30 kickoff will not be a conversation again. And if it is, it's going to be, oh, what I tell you, here we go. We won another one and it's no big deal. We're building a new culture.
It's going to be a conversation, and I promise you, fella. Wait till it's only his first one. Honestly, wait till it's Girona or PSV away in January, and then you're playing at 12:30 away at Newcastle or something, and your head just fucking falls off because a player picks up with 2 injuries, and you're like, "Fuck me, I kick off in 40 hours." But again, he's going to learn. He's going to make mistakes. He made mistakes against Forest. The manager looked like he acknowledged that in the press conference, and he's going to make his mistakes. But as of right now, I agree with you, Nan. It's great leadership in terms of that way of thinking. If Liverpool go out and win the game, fantastic. But I do think when we get into the real sticky end of the season, December, January, he's going to figure it out pretty quick.
Speaking of great dictatorships, leadership. Turkish Stallion jumps in with morning reckless people. And Timuchin also agrees. He likes how he's not complaining about it and opening the door for excuses while still hinting that we are picked more than others. And I would agree with this. It's to both your points. I've used the sports analogy in the past on here. Bill Parcells, when he was the coach of the Giants, used to tell the media, you never give a player an excuse, because if you do, they'll use it. And I think that's something as a leader, you don't want to do that. And once you start to build that doubt, it's a nonce point. The bad performance then becomes, well, it's a lunchtime kickoff, and the manager told me we don't play well on these after international breaks. And it's not because, the manager never should have picked Alexis McAllister to start against Wolves last year, because he was absolutely shite, and you saw it in 45 minutes. The worst performance he's put in a Liverpool red jersey. And he wasn't that much better the first match this year after the international break. Yeah. So, hey, Arn, I know you need him for Chelsea, but make sure you put him through a big fitness test before he starts that match, because we all know he'll be two times the guy who plays 90-plus minutes for Argentina, because he's become that important for his country, as important as he is for his club. So it'll be interesting to see. Let's talk about our match against Crystal Palace quickly. And then, because I do want to leave some time to talk about the fixtures and, of course, talk about the next manager who will be fired on Monday morning. So let's start with our fixture. Anand, we saw limited rotation on the weekend or midweek. What do you expect this starting 11 to look like? Will there be any rotation leading into this Palace match for you from what has been our true first team EPL 11?
I think he goes the exact same team again. At this point, it's becoming a little unpredictable, but very predictable at the same time. I think he goes the same team again. I think Nunez starts. I think Diaz starts. I think we see exactly the exact same team. I haven't seen any indication that it might change because Diaz has been starting in the league, and rightfully so. I know we want Gakpo to play. Well, I actually want Gakpo to start, But I think with the way Diaz has been performing in the league, you don't want to cut that short. So I think Diaz starts. His comments about Nunez suggest, we got to do better. He's got to do better. Suggest he's going to get that chance. So I think Nunez starts. The midfield doesn't change. There's no reason to. So I gave you a very long answer for a short answer. Nothing changes.
Kazi, let's stay with the front three. We are all in agreement that the 32-year-old on the right wing playing like a 15 or playing like a guy who's 24 and in his prime is going to start every match until he can't. So we'll leave Mo on the shelf here as our, one guarantee. Let's go to left wing, because I want to ask you, Gakpo, in my opinion, could feel hard done by not getting the start against Bologna, coming off of his performance in the Champions League, his performance at West Ham, his performance in some sub appearances in the league. He's earned himself a chance to get a start in some rotation. Knowing Diaz is about to get on 2 long-ass flights to South America and also play probably the most influential 1 or 2 role for his country, would this be a moment that maybe would be a great spot for Gakpo to get a start from the beginning? He is good in possession, creates, and give Diaz a rest, and then you still have the live wire to bring on? Or do you think it's not broke? It ain't broke, don't try to fix it. One more match and let Diaz start from the beginning.
I think that's what he does. I just think I think I'm a bit with a little bit. He might just go full strength. And then I think he'll learn from the Forest game and make his rotation after it. You have an easy excuse for Chelsea to go to Diaz. You're having a rest against Chelsea because you just got home. And you have that easy excuse. Do you know what I mean? The McAllister one you can do in an hour against Chelsea and then we're taking it. You know what I mean? Or something along those lines. I quite like it sometimes where managers are forced to make a change in terms of the travel and stuff. So I think he goes full strength, but I think you see 3 or 4 against Chelsea. I do. I think you see Gakpo get the start there. I think you see, he does make the sub at Darwin. Jota comes back in, so that injury doesn't look too bad for Jota that we're all kind of concerned about, because he plays 30 minutes against Bologna. So I expect Jota to still get the start. So I don't think you see many changes. The one that kind of sticks to me is the midfield, to be honest, with Szoboszlai. I know it was a good performance, and McAllister, but I do think if you want to throw a little surprise in there and you want to keep the ball a bit better, I think Jones could be your man. And that's not just me being a Curtis Jones fanboy. It's more if you want to. I think Liverpool need to keep the ball in certain areas a bit better. Szoboszlai was an improved performance, so I don't know, but I think he goes unchanged for now. But I do expect, with the games rolling all into each other after the international break, we see a lot more crazy-ass teams.
Sir Z says, I think we go again with the same team. And I think he's more on the lines of what me and Kazi are saying. When I'm saying the same team, that to me has Jota starting through the middle. I don't disagree, Anan, regarding the comments. But I think the fact that Jota played, I think the fact that Darwin didn't have this pulling up trees type performance makes it easier to go back to Jota there. I'd love to see Jones play. I just have no faith in it because I've been calling for it to happen for 3 or 4.
Okay.
Let me ask you, Robertson clearly looked like he was off the pace a bit. He was putting in great work, wasn't all there defensively. Knowing again Robertson's going to go away for 2 weeks and play big boy minutes captaining a Scotland side that are probably going to ask him to play constantly, and he is getting older. Could you see a potential that maybe Robertson gets a rest in this match?
No.
And he either were to start Tsimikas or play Gomez on the left-hand side? Because that's the only change I could see potentially happening in defense. The only one would be Robertson, because that would be 3 games for Robertson in 7 days, plus the international break coming off a slight Achilles injury.
He has been subbed, though, hasn't he? He's been subbed in these games.
Yep. No, yeah. I agree. I'm just throwing out
of course. Yeah.
The one guy, I don't think there's any chance he goes back to Kwanzaa in this spot. This is Kanate and Virgil until, the next League Cup game, probably, to be honest.
Or until Kanate is injured. But yeah, Robertson goes nowhere. He starts, he plays. I actually don't think the manager has much faith in Tsimikas.
Well, I don't either, actually. That's why I think he's on Gomez.
I actually think he has more than you think. Because he starts him at the San Siro, doesn't he? You know what I mean?
And I think that's when he lost faith, right?
Yeah, he makes a mistake for the goal. But going back to this goal, because again, I don't think it's just Palace. I think you do need to look the week after. You play Chelsea on the Sunday, then you go 3 days later to RB Leipzig. So there's that when he does 7 or 8 and then rest a load for Arsenal, knowing you've got a breathing room in the Champions League. Do you get what I mean? Because he's won the first 2. So that's what the RB Leipzig game allows him. So we might go full strength now, 1 or 2 Chelsea, 6 to 8 against Leipzig, full strength for Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? That's what winning those 2 games, where I expected a bit more rotation for Bologna, not thinking of the previous games coming up. But now he's won the Bologna game. He could go, well, fuck it, then I'm doing 6 or 8 because I deserve 6 or 8 against Leipzig, who are shite at the moment in the Champions League. And then go to Arsenal, the Emirates, full strength, maybe.
Anam, what do you got for a prediction for Sunday, Liverpool, or Saturday, Liverpool versus Chelsea? Liverpool versus Palace. Saturday.
Yeah, that's what we got.
We'll do that one next week.
It's far too early for Gally. It's far too early,
Far too early. And I'm the one who's been up a lot longer drinking more coffee, which is the crazy part.
Yeah. I'd go 2-0.
Yeah, well, I'll say 2-1. I think it'll be stinky, but I think we'll win it 2-1. Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's take a quick look around the grounds here. Some of the other key fixtures. I'll let you guys pick a fixture and we'll break it down a little bit. Where do you want to start, Kazi?
Let's talk about Sunday morning then. What a beautiful Sunday morning that could be for the Big Reds. If you win against Palace, we all expect United City and Arsenal to do the business. I don't really expect any surprises there. And then you can have a bit of maybe a hope for Newcastle, but let's forget about Everton. I can discuss Everton in my own head for hours, but we can talk about the big one, because I don't know if you guys watched the Porto game yesterday. It was a tremendous watch all round. You get given a 2-goal lead by the keeper, because that's, by the way, the same keeper who constantly plays against Liverpool when we play Porto and makes about 7 mistakes over 2 legs. It's that keeper still. He gives them a 2-goal lead. and then you fucking collapse inside 25 to 30 minutes of football over, you know what I mean? So you're 3-2 down. Then the manager, this is the genius thing of subbing the 2 centre-halves to bring on 2 yard dogs of Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire in 2024, nearly 2025. And then one of them scores the winner. It's absolutely tremendous football. It's tremendous all round. De Ligt looks absolutely pathetic for all the goals. That Martinez, mate, he's not a footy player, you know. I'm sorry, lad. I know they love him, mate, and I know they go, he's unbelievable, and that, right? Because he throws a big tackle in now and then. He throws a tackle in that he was going to win the ball 80 to 20% of the time when he could just keep possession. But he just loves a big slide tackle. And you're like, you've just won the ball anyway. Just shoulder him off it. You've got it. Keep possession. Throw it back to Onana. But now he's suddenly go, nah, man, I'm just going to throw a big tackle in to get a big cheer. I love him. I love watching Martinez. And then De Ligt I felt sorry for. Was that the same striker that Chelsea were going to sign in the summer from Atletico Madrid, which fell through? That big number 9, I think, for Porto. Is it Amorodin or something like that?
That's him.
Yeah, that's him. He's an absolute unit. He's a yard dog. He's an absolute lower Premier League. He's the one, by the way. When you've got that team at 12:30 away on the Saturday after the European game, and you look and go, I can't be arsed with him, you know. Like a Mikel Antonio, innit? You're like, I can't be arsed.
Solomon Rondon style kind of player.
Oh, yard dog, isn't he? He's going to score 8 goals in the Premier League, but he's going to bully every centre-half. He's one of those. And then he just absolutely embarrasses De Ligt for like 70 minutes of what he's on the football field for. It's a mad game. And then, you know, he gets kept in the job like Harry Maguire again. Harry Maguire's kept him in the job. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's just brilliant. It's amazing. And I can't wait for Villa away.
It's funny. When we were talking to Summer about De Ligt signing for United, everybody's like, what a deal. And most of us were like, well, if he was so great, Bayern wouldn't let him go at such a young age. But then Gravenberch is obviously an example that they would.
I mean, sold from Ajax, big money to Juventus, doesn't live up to it, leaves Juventus, ends up at Bayern, doesn't live up to it, leaves Bayern, ends up at United. Anyone really think he's going to turn this thing around and be some great player?
He's on the verge of being a West Ham player. I mean, he's had an interesting career overall. But back to Lisandro Martinez, there's that really funny TikTok that every time United play and Martinez does a Martinez, there's like this girl that's like standing there and it says 5'3" and an attitude.
Oh, yeah.
He's a little guy, and he's just got so much attitude in him. And he loves that sliding tackle that he doesn't need to do just because it gets the highlight. Ooh, it's the butcher.
You won the ball.
I love watching him. He's like me when I was in high school. When I knew what I'm doing is useless, but it might get a cheer kind of thing. So the Klavan, when he would get the ball and do that turn, it's the same thing. It's just like the most random thing ever. Listen, I'm very happy for the way United are. And Ten Hag keeps talking about, don't judge us now, judge us at the end of the season. We will be there, but you won't. So we will judge at the end of the season.
Timuchin reminds everyone, live watch along for Ten Hag's last game on Sunday a.m. People, show up and show your respect.
It's the most Ten Hag thing to do to go there and win. It's the most United thing to do, like he did with the cup final. He was gone after the City game. They were hoping that he lost the City. Like the board were, just to give them the excuse. You nearly lost to Coventry in the fucking semis. So they were hoping for this. It's the most Ten Hag thing to do. But again, I'm going back to it, on a serious conversational point here about Ten Hag. The one that always he spent 600 million, right? And I don't think they're any better. I don't think there's a signing there that actually goes there. They've massively improved them. I think the keeper's worse, by the way, than De Gea.
100%. And that's his guy. He wanted a ball-playing keeper. He had him at Ajax, then he went over to Inter, and then they bought him from there. Like, that has been an absolute colossal failure of a buy, in my opinion. Up there with Anthony and those other bad buys, because
Anthony's
the wanted this guy.
Anthony's the one that hangs around his neck like a noose. It's like a brick weighing him down, because the board are going to look and go, well, we give you De Ligt and Mazraoui. Let's get it right. If you have scouts around the world, they don't go, we're going to do De Ligt and Mazraoui in a double deal from Bayern. 2 lads who don't start for Bayern Munich. Do you know what I mean? Like that, you don't do that kind of deal. But you want them because you work with them. The funny thing is, the ones that he worked with, the best players, Gravenberch, he didn't sign him. So it's just like weird. Like, I don't know I don't know if it's a matey thing. I don't know if it's one of those things when your mate gets a job and goes, "Hey, that's boss here, you know, they pay really well, it's dead easy, just come here," and your mate gets you a job. Do you know what I mean? And he's just got his mates in the dressing room, just like, come and go, just come in. They pay your boss, they're gonna fucking sell you, and you're gonna get millions, and it's gonna be great because you don't get paid in the Dutch league. I have no idea how it works, but I don't know. Who do you think they do, Gally? If they sack him, let's say Villa batter them.
That's where I wanted to go.
I think they do Rude just till the end of the season. But who would
I think that is what they'll do. I think just as classic a United move though is you bring Rude in and he gets it better just because these dogs of players, and then you give him a 3-year deal, and then these same dogs of players quit on him the way they did Ole and the way they did every other one of their. I mean, let's be honest. The manager who actually did the most in the shortest caretaker time and actually changed the way they were playing was Ralph Rangnick for a little period. And he actually rose his hands and was like, I want to go play. I want to go be the Austria manager because this place is shite and you can't win here. You can't succeed. Michael Carrick was a club legend. He was in charge for like 3 games. They actually looked a completely different side. And then they went out and brought in Rangnick instead of just letting him try to hold it out because I think, to Kazi's point, they were afraid of doing well. My fear would be this if I'm a United supporter, other than, you know, wanting to kill myself for that moment, but we shouldn't make light of suicide at any time. So I didn't mean to make that joke. But I would want to hurt myself very badly. But I do think, when you look at this United team, it's the one thing Goldbridge gets right when he talks about them. It's not all about Ten Hag. It is a lot about the dogs of players. And the fact that Mourinho still goes on record every summer to say, when I showed up there were 3 players that I asked for them to sell immediately. Those 3 players are still at the club. And let's not kid ourselves. One is probably Marcus Rashford. One is probably Luke Shaw. And not only are these players players that, what was that?
And Maguire.
And Maguire probably, but these, I don't know. I think he loved Maguire actually, but
he wants a Maguire. Yeah,
he loved Maguire. He loved a lot.
I think it's Lindelof. It's Lindelof.
Probably is because didn't he once refer to him as a ship in the night?
Yeah,
like 2 ships in the night. And then
we have Jose back in the league, man. I miss Jose so much, you know.
He actually said they're like, and then the reporter said, "So you mean it's like ships passing in the night?" And he said, "No, turning around to park."
Do you guys see what he did last week when he put the laptop in front of the camera?
Oh,
and then they asked him, they said to him, they said, "What do you think about the opponent crowding the officials?" And he said, "I don't crowd the officials. I show them with evidence." And he turned the laptop around. We do need Jose back almost as much as we need Ten Hag out for the storyline of it. But let me ask you this. Do you think there's any truth in the fact that the Enos folks are just trying to ruin Manchester United? Like literally they're a plant, because if there's real talk, if there is real talk that Southgate is actually in contention,
okay,
that to me sounds ludicrous.
One sec. Let's have a footy chat here for a second, right? Okay, so they won't Gareth Southgate. The first thing that Gareth Southgate do will get a style of play. He'll put them 3 at the back. So let's get it right. He will make them better because Harry Maguire can't play in a 2. So he's really good in a 3 because he's fantastic for England. So let's get this right. Let's have an honest conversation here. So he comes in with the Lit, Martinez and Maguire centre half, which actually isn't too bad. So he'll make them better automatically. Because the one thing the United haven't got is a style of play. They have no idea what they're doing. They run around like headless chickens or fucking rabid dogs, right? Just hoping that something can be created from nothing. The one thing that Gareth will do is do that. The other one is who I would personally go for as of right now, who's available, is probably Graham Potter. Just to actually go and give them a style of play that actually might suit some kind of football players. Which, like for example, like a player like Mason Mount and players like that, where he will just basically get them on the ball and go, "We're not playing this counter-attacking style anymore. I don't care if we finish fucking 12th or 4th. It doesn't matter. We are playing a style of football." The one thing that we United fans need right now is that to cling on. It's like when you go to Klopp's first season and Brendan Rodgers' first season. Brendan Rodgers' first season, by the way, was a massive failure and he could have been fucking sacked on the spot when you get twatted at home in your first game, 3-0.
Yeah.
Away from sorry, I think Swansea, I think. But anyway, but what we've seen, though, is a style of play. What you see is something but there's some victories. It's like Jurgen in his first year. Jurgen's first few games, you go to City and win 4-1, and you go to Chelsea and win 3-1. What those first few games, because you go, well, there's a style here, he's trying to do something. The one thing that Ten Hag never had is he's trying to do something. I don't know what your style is. You win footy matches now, innit? Because you have boss players, and the boss players will just switch it on for the game. Like a Bruno will switch it on, or a Rashford will, and they'll just do something boss, because that's what they do. But the difference is not everyone's fantastic, so not everyone can do that. So going back to the main point, if Ten Hag does get sacked, I think they will do Ruud. Personally, what I would do is do a Potter, or even, I know you might laugh at Southgate, but I would have Potter over the both of them, is create a style of play. That's what they need. They need to go to Bruno going, you're not playing left wing, running left wing. You're not playing right wing because you're just leaving these lads. You're leaving Casemiro on his own. Casemiro's about 74, and you're just leaving him on his own in the centre midfield. The first thing you do to Casemiro is go, we're playing Kobbie Mainoo next to you. The one thing that Gareth Southgate does, which people might laugh at again, is 3-5-2. He actually plays 2 defensive midfielders. So one thing he does do is get legs around Casemiro. Get legs around him. Because he can't run. But he's really good at tackling still and stuff like that, but he can't run. So let's get a style of play implemented here. Listen, I'm not saying Southgate would be the right bit of business. I think it'd be awful for them. But the one thing he will do is get them a style of play, which is exactly what they need.
And Steve Cook says Tuchel would be the best fit. I think they kicked those tires in the summer, and he turned them down because he wanted control over transfers and wanted say in personnel. He also, I think, was one of the managers, along with Pochettino, that told him you're going to need to clear out like 8 or 10 of these players. You
just said this. I'm going to bring you in a sec because that just really annoys me. He wants control over transfers. You're trying to tell me that all the scouts and all this new board of Ineos highlighted Mazraoui and De Ligt as the 2. But Ten Hag didn't want them. Ten Hag surely had a say in the transfer, so the manager still hasn't a say. Because if you're not the manager, who the fuck would want those 2 fucking fools? Do you know what I'm saying? So they're the best that the board can highlight. I don't know.
You can't tell me Ten Hag wasn't the one who wanted De Ligt. You just can't convince me it wasn't his guy. Yeah, but I think obviously the obvious solution here, everybody's talking about Southgate, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go with Ole again, because that conversation has come up. That conversation has come up. And I wouldn't be surprised. But I think United would be looking at an interim manager, so maybe it could be Ruud. I think they look forward to next season where they go for McKenna again. I think that name is still on the short list for United, and I think they would want McKenna. And nobody's talking about him anymore, but Amorim. He's a name that wants out of Portugal, and he's just looking for a club to come get him because he has regrets. So I think the most logical answer of what they want is McKenna. I still think they're drooling over McKenna.
Really?
I think you have to see something a little bit more from McKenna to me.
If Ipswich get relegated, do you think they still do McKenna?
Well, remember what we talked about this summer? This is your chance, man. You might get relegated. Go. But odds are, I think they still go for him because of the story. I think storyline, McKenna still is a United dream. But I would laugh if they go again for Ole. Again, especially considering the conversation came up and he was asked, and his response was very clear. That would be nice. You know, he didn't say I wouldn't do it. He's like, oh, yeah, that would be nice. So he made himself available because now the talk is going to be Ten Hag might get the sack. So if Ruud isn't who takes charge, I wouldn't be surprised if they go for McKenna, for Ole till the end of the season. And then come summertime, is it McKenna? Is it Amorim? Is it now Southgate? Who knows? Southgate's available. It's all possible. But Kazi hit it nail, like, well, I don't know the saying with the nail, whatever thingy. But before worrying about the manager, worry about the style. Even if you get a manager this summer and you go on and you finish 9th, but you've developed a play style. Now the following season, you get the players to fit the style and boom, you take off.
Exactly.
This is where United need to be looking. What is our identity? What is our style? We knew our identity with Brendan, right? Just go out, score 10 goals, concede 9, you're still winning. Then Jurgen came and our identity was heavy metal football, high press. What is the identity that United want for this club? Once they figure that out, the manager is going to be irrelevant because the club will click. We don't want that to happen, though. So, keep it the way it is. Ten Hag is at the wheel, baby.
So last one for you, Kazi. 2 weeks from now, when the
manager
international break resumes and we're done, right? Who will Ten Hag be gone, and who will be in the seat at that point? I think you're on record saying you think it'll be Ruud.
I do. I said that at the start.
When we come back. Yep.
I think I just think they do Ruud because I think there's a part where you go, You just need a bit of feel good back in the club. You just need to have a bit of a laugh, like that. Ollie, like if you ask United fans what's your favourite season apart from the Mourinho one when you win a couple of trophies, what's your favourite season of the last 10? You go when Ollie first came in, because it was just a bit of a laugh, and football's about to be enjoyed, and it's just boss to have a bit of a laugh. When Kenny came back, it was just a bit of a laugh for 6 months because we just watched Roy Hodgson for fucking 4 months. Take the heart and soul of the club. Liverpool win a few footy matches. I'm a bit of a historian. I can't remember any of the games that Kenny won when he first stepped back into the role. The end of that season, I can just remember Maxi Rodriguez taking off flying, and he looked fantastic for a while. I think that was Kenny. But anyway, football's it's not enjoyable. That's what it's like Everton right now. And again, I know going back to the Everton part, it's like you just want to have a bit of a laugh with it. I want to fucking wake up and have some fun. So that's what Ruud offers them, because they're just going to sing Ruud van Nistelrooy for 7 months. And that's, by the way, that's fine as well. Because football's meant to be a bit of a laugh. It's meant to be a bit of a thing. So I think they do Ruud. I think they can bite the bullet and do Ruud. I think they can have 7 months then to pick the right fella. And go, if it's Ruud, and you finish second or third in the group, great. But I think they do Ruud. I think Ruud comes in. And then in the summer, it opens wide up for them. It really does. But you've got 6 months to figure it out, Ineos.
Anan, what do we got? Will he be in charge? If not him, who? And
I think he'll be in charge, but again, not for long. And then that's when the decisions come. But as of now, after the international break, I think Ten Hag will still be at the wheel.
Wow, someone is really rooting for the demise of Manchester United. But I also believe, I don't think he can survive if they don't win at Villa on Sunday. And I've seen nothing from that side so far this season that they'll come out and put in that performance. Outside of Kazi's point, that would be the most Ten Hag thing to do. Except, I think the players wanted medals at Wembley. And I don't think City really cared that much about them because they were so distraught for being out of Champions League. I do believe at this point there are players in that dressing room that may like the manager, may want the manager there, but have completely quit and down tools. And I don't know that at their effort levels right now, and your captain getting sent off right, wrong, or indifferent in back-to-back matches after all the drama that he saw on the weekend and getting his red card rescinded. I joked in the Discord, the person most unhappy about that red card getting rescinded was Bruno Fernandes, because now he's got to play this weekend for the slot against Villa. He's like, I got to run around and watch Morgan Rogers just make me look like a moron.
He was staying in Portugal after that Porto game if he's suspended. He's like, I'm able to stay, Gaffer. I'm taking the full week off. And he was definitely staying, really, all day.
As usual, our Reckless Fridays always seem to go over because there's so many topics. I want to thank my two panels hosts today, Kazi and Anan. Sorry for being a couple minutes late. I filled in. If you have not, get over to the page right now. Please like the video, subscribe, add a comment. Don't forget, I don't know who will be hosting the pre-match show at the crack of dawn tomorrow, but hopefully somebody will be hosting it. I cannot, but we will be back on air pre-match, post-match. Looks like Timuchin is pulling together an Eric Ten Hag funeral. Aston Villa versus Man United watch along for Sunday morning. So please check that out. And of course, all of our programs throughout the week. And for everyone here at American Scouser TV, thank you very much for watching. We will end it with Anan telling you to watch the Illuminati from the weekend. And we will all be back next week on Monday for another edition of American Scouser TV Coffee Show. Everybody, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.